somebody that kind of runs that place.
She was the AP.
She was everything. Shirley was everything, and what a wonderful lady. Was there from sun up to sundown every day. Did not mind working. Loved the Richmond Raiders, and there was 4 ladies at the high school. Shirley Adcock, Ann Martin, Elaine Davenport, and who all 3 of them have passed, and Georgia Jackson. And Georgia is still living at the beach. But I can just have comfort saying that the 3 of the Lady Raider girls are still together. Shirley passed away last week, which Jerry and I did not realize it. And we just found out the other day that she had passed and all that. So I just wanted to mention her and what an asset she was to Richmond County Schools for many, many, many years. So here's to Shirley Adcock. Yep. And Joe, with that, it's on you.
All right. What do you want? What would you like to do about dinner?
Okay. Well, you want to eat
It's
dinner?
up to you. Usually you do at the beginning of a work session.
Let's go
It's up
ahead
to
and
you.
eat some dinner while Kim and her staff are here. So we'll just do dinner, and then we'll eat in there so we don't mess this place up, and then we'll come back and do it. Does that sound good, everybody? All right, let's go.
Field members of the board, tonight I have the distinct pleasure to show you the progression in planning we have made since the last court meeting. Tonight is particularly special because of the potential improvement to our school building. This evening I'm going to share with you several scenarios for potential building projects, give you the background information behind each, discuss funding sources to achieve the goals you may set, and give you the best timelines and options for buildings that we can. Stephen will be helping me with a whole lot of technical information and any questions you have about maintenance or the conditions of the building. I want to be crystal clear that these are not the only options. They're merely suggestions based on our planning meetings, facility study. All of you had commissioned with Jim Watson last spring. I want to say this should be fun. It should be exciting. All of us have a chance to make a real difference in the next 75 years. However, if this board chooses not to build at this time, we have some very well-maintained buildings, a great maintenance department, and a wonderful leader in Stephen King. We do have some current issues we're still going to have to fix, but we can do that. It cannot be stressed enough that no decision has to be made. You don't have to make a decision, you don't have to do anything. However, we have the possibility of applying for a grant that will buy us a brand new building to replace a 70 to 75-year-old structure. In 1950, 52, and 53, our school system built Fairview Heights, L.J. Bell, and Monroe Avenue. County leaders had great leadership in these buildings, and they served our communities, those three buildings, for a combined 217 years. That's pretty stout. We've been blessed, however, and I think that we can build some newer, more spacious and efficient buildings for our students, and I feel like that's worth doing. Tonight I'm going to start with funding sources. So the packet of information you got, so I'm going to go ahead and go over 2 or 3 things. The book that I gave you last week, or 2 weeks ago, is a little different for today. Okay? The presentation you're going to see looks very similar to what you saw, but it will have all the pictures. We'll have a few of them in there. And then some things have been cleaned up, some numbers have been changed. As I get things from people, I change things. I try to get it as updated as I can. So the public school.
Julian, let me stop you just a second and ask, the book that you gave us, that we studied
Yes,
for
ma'am.
2 weeks, if you make a change, you're gonna tell us
The changes that you've got in that book are going to be represented in the presentation I give you. On the bottom of your pile is basically the same book. Just like you have
Okay,
pictures again.
that's this, you just gave
Yes,
us this
yes,
today,
ma'am.
okay.
It
I
should
just
be
wanna make
very,
sure.
very similar. There'll be a few things that'll be a little different. There's a few omissions, a few things I pulled out and changed. I talked to most of you about them. But
Okay.
there's some things that we want to change a little bit. So the public school, again, when you start looking at what we're trying to do or what we're wanting to do, the goal for us, as I see it, is to look at the scenarios through Dr. Farrell's direction, give them to you and let you guys kind of say, hey, this is a direction we want to go. Again, you don't have to do anything, but when you're sitting on 3 buildings you know are 70 to 75 years old, on top of Rockingham Middle's gym, which is over 80 years old, you're going to have to do something at some point.
Dr. Carter, do you have an extra copy? I'm
Which-
missing one.
Which one?
The handout. No?
You didn't get a packet?
You better check Bobby City.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I thought you got a packet.
That's okay.
I'm
It's
a
probably
narcan.
because I had stuff
I'm
sitting
gonna
up
see if I
here.
can
that
move.
just got
Have
missed.
it.
Can you get, I kind of need to keep mine.
I can look on it somebody.
Knock it back, just take it.
Well, I'm certainly embarrassed about that. I thought
No, thank you.
All right, so we can't build these buildings without some help. All right, it's obvious. We're not in a position to build a $40 million building. So we talked about it a couple weeks ago. I told you that the state has some funding sources, and we're going to settle on this one at the very end. It's a needs-based public school funding grant, and we have to match some of the money. It's $42 million for an elementary school, $52 million for a middle school, $62 million for a high school. And anybody that's trying to build a high school can tell you $62 million is not enough money to build a high school. So fortunately, we got a pretty good high school. It's been maintained pretty well. So I feel pretty good about that. If you'll flip to the first page, The lottery capital funding, I'm gonna go through these quick. I'm not gonna spend a whole lot of time as far as funding goes, because it's gonna break down into one or two categories about what we're gonna do as far as funding goes. ADM is a corporate tax. We don't have enough money in our account to build a school building, not a major building. The public school building capital fund is next. And that money we are paying, we get from the state of North Carolina every year. It's about $500,000, I think. Is that right, Don? And it goes to the district, the county commissioners pay down the debt on East Rockingham School until that school building's paid off. So we can't touch that. The public school building repair and renovation fund, that money is promised to the projects that we're doing now, which is Merrill Springs, Fairview Heights, and the high school. In order to finish out paying debt service on that money has got to be there. We have about $1.5 million sitting at the state. When Dawn is ready to pay the bills, she draws that money down. We hadn't touched it yet. So that's money that we've got. If we don't spend it all in the projects that we're building right now, we'll have a little extra money. The one that you really need to look at is the needs-based public school capital fund. That's at the bottom. This is a joint county LEA grant. So, the state of North Carolina could give you, if we want to build an elementary school, middle school, or a high school, I told you the numbers a minute ago. If you'll take a look at this page right here, needs-based public school building capital fund, you can take a look and you can see what everybody has to match. We are tier 1.
Wait a minute, Julian, you gotta give us time, I gotta find it. I'm sorry, but I wanna make sure I understand what you're saying. Okay, I
I'll
found
tell
it.
me to slow down. I get excited about this
Well,
stuff.
I am gonna tell you to slow down, cause I gotta find all these sheets of paper. I got it.
You ready?
Yes.
Okay. So on this sheet of paper, you can see all the districts in the state of North Carolina, okay? And you can see, and we're on the second page, toward the bottom, mid-bottom, and it says, the Richmond County schools must match 5% of whatever's given, over to the far right. It's based on the assessed real estate value. We fall in the 5% bracket. So if we wanted to build let's say we want to build $40 million, I rounded it off to 40 and to make it a little easier to do the math. You would have to go to your county commissioners, superintendent would, and have to request $2 million. It's 5% of it. Okay? That would give us $42 million to work with. Now, actually, you can get up to 42, so the number would be 44,100,000, I think is what the number is, if you got all the money. Now, you keep in mind, you're having to match it, so if you don't need $45 million or $40 million, you don't have to use it. But I will tell you, to build a school building is expensive. Now, there are some positives. There's a lot of positives as far as I'm concerned. You can go back through this sheet, and I'm not gonna read this to you, but you can see the information. You can see what these different things the money can be spent on. If you will focus on the needs-based public school capital fund, it'll give you all the ways the money can be spent from the state of North Carolina. Okay, primarily building buildings. Last year, I don't think they granted but like 7 projects. They spent $386 million or something like that on like 7 projects. 3, 4, 5 years ago, they did like 34 or 35. So it just depends on what the projects are. Projects are tending to be really big. When they first started, they were doing a lot of small stuff. It might be a vocational center, it might be this and that. And so there were little pieces that they could knock off and do a lot of different things. Now they're primarily big buildings. So, with that said, I want you to flip over to
Julian,
this page.
can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
About East Rockingham Elementary School?
Yes, sir.
How much longer do we have to pay on that, Don? Do we have any?
We had the answer to this about 6 weeks ago, and I forgot what it was.
No, I gave Dr. Farrell today, last year Wally asked me how much we owed, and I don't know which is actually which. I asked Carrie what we owed. I don't have that with me right now, and I don't know which is which, because he's just telling me what fund they have it in. There's 3 different loans that they have, and he gave me the maturity dates of all those loans. One is $813,000,
Well, can you get all three of them and give them to Dr. Farrell so he can give it to us maybe in a Friday update or something
I
like that?
have them. I actually have them on my desk. She gave them to me today. I'll just include it.
And that was what Sherry gave me last year, cause, Wiley had asked when did they mature, when were they due?
I think the latest date, Dawn, was
30.
2030.
Yeah, one's 28, one's 27, and one's 30.
I think that's right.
So they're about. they're
So when
all
that
about paid
happens,
off.
if the
Within
state
5
is
years.
still funding that project, that grant, we'd have about $500,000 a year to spend on something, upkeeping the buildings, putting roofs on. Stephen is consistently putting roofs on buildings. He's fixing to spend $500,000 at Rockingham Middle on the roof. So there are a lot of things that we certainly need to look at. I'm gonna skip over the email that we had from our counselor. I want you to go to this page right here, this booklet. Cameron is gonna be my Vanna White here shortly. She's gonna come up and help me draw some pictures. We're gonna start at Ellerby Middle School. When we met earlier, we talked about the possibility of doing some different things with Ellerby Middle School. School was built in 1949. It was added onto in 50, 57, and 89. It's got a full complement of teachers, CTE teachers, art, music, media. Not all of them are full-time because the building has gotten big for the amount of kids that we have. Right now, we have about 198 students at Ellerby. The number has dwindled. There are people that say there's a possibility, that your attendance may go up at some point. Don't know. Don't know what the possibilities are. One of the things I heard very loud and clear was the possibility of doing a K-8 school with Mineral Springs. That is certainly something that we can take a look at. If you will go to the next page, what's the number of children a school needs to maintain the school viable, make school viable according to economies of scale? As you know, that's a economic principle that describes how a company can use their average cost or lower the average cost for its product. Students would be our product. And so if we could combine the schools at some point in the future, I think you could save some money as far as personnel. Now, the state is funding most of the personnel, although you have some redundancies there. The building does not cost that much to operate. Can you tell me, Stephen, where we're at as far as Ellerby and the maintenance of the building? The roof, utility costs? Got utility costs, the roof.
Most of the building the roof, Ellerby Middle School has been recently replaced. Some of it's metal, some of it's a built-up roof.
Roof's in a good place. How about chiller?
Chiller's probably 10 years old.
Okay. So the building's not in a bad spot. It costs roughly $77,000 to heat and cool. There are no major big ticket items that have to be done at this point. The grounds are very, very nice. If you've been over there, the athletic fields are very nice. Although the state allots the majority of the money for the labor, there could be some significant savings by reducing redundant positions, as I spoke to earlier. Should there be a study done to determine the feasibility of making a K-8 school? I've done a lot of the work on it already, but I'm certainly not the foremost expert in doing this. Certainly something could be done. I would ask you to think about, as we go through these scenarios tonight, the priority. What's the priority? Is it low? Is it medium? Is it high? Does it have to be done? When we start looking at changing doing some things to buildings, fixing some buildings and all that, think about that. Now, I also want to bring up the notion that, and I mentioned in here, the possibility of adding on something over at Middle Spring School if we choose to go K-8. The way I look at it, I think we would need at least 12 classrooms, plus a course room, a work room. You're going to need a music room, bathrooms. When you start looking at what we spent at Mineral Springs on the building with 6 classrooms, we spent $4.5 million. We're saying double that, plus bathrooms, plus workroom, plus course room. I'm thinking $10 to $16 million to do it. Now, we don't have $16 million to do this. So you gotta start thinking about, okay, what's your priority? Do we wanna get $40 million for elementary school, $52 million for a middle school, $62 million for a high school, or do we want to spend $16 million building a smaller structure? It's up to you. If you'll flip the page,
Julie, let me ask you a question. With
Yes, sir.
189 students, Stephen, you can probably answer this.
109.
Probably answer this. 198 students.
yes,
Like cafeteria, would we have to expand the cafeteria, or could they fit in there?
I think they would fit in there fine. It's gonna be some really weird schedules, but I think we can make it
Right.
work.
And the
I don't think-
gymnasium is fine.
Gymnasium is fine. I went out and measured off the field right beside the big field they drive through in the mornings and all that. It's big enough for a soccer field. It's big enough for a football field. We have some extra land over there too, and utilized all what we have. So there is the possibility of doing that. If nothing else, the facilities we have at Ellerby are really good, and so they could ride a bus over there and do that until we can get something built, if we choose to go that way. Answer your question?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so Fairview Heights is next. Fairview Heights was constructed in 1950, and this morning, myself, Dr. Farrell, Stephen, and an architect walked through the building, and we took a look at everything and just kind of got some ideas. Looked at the quality the condition of the building, auditorium, layout, the room. Where did Cameron go? Okay.
She had to step out.
All right. So she took off. All right, so we just had an addition made at the school building. We just put a gymnasium up. An addition was made at the rear of the school in 1969. In 2009, we built a media center. So the building's in a good place. It really is. Fairview Heights Chiller, Stephen, was it 3 years ago? The final phase of the roof replacement was completed last year. There are no major renovations or repairs necessary or planned for the foreseeable future. Just don't have to do it. Can you get me that? So while we're talking, and you guys saw it in the booklet you got, I highlighted a couple of areas that the building could potentially go if we chose to build a Fairview. And again, the building's in pretty good shape. It's a little older than Bell, but it's still in pretty decent shape. Do y'all see the picture? Y'all can see where there are several places that you could build. If you look behind the school, there's a circle track. Looks like a football stadium when you're looking at it. Okay? That is a big area where the school could be built and probably would be best built there. And where I'm talking about is right here.
It's all highlighted in yellow, yeah.
However, talking with the architect this morning, your gymnasium is about right here, okay? This building right here, the last spot I'm drawing, potentially could be taken down and the building built while students were occupying the building. That way you could connect up the media center, you could connect up the gym. That's a possibility. Does anybody have a question about any of that? I know this is a lot coming at you, so I'm ready to ask whatever you need.
Are the alleyways there? I mean, obviously I see Fairview's built right in the middle of one. Is that just an unopened easement that is abandoned at this point, so it would have no bearings on anything?
Where are we talking about?
So when you look between parcel number ending in 6489 and 6227, it'll say Fairview Avenue.
No, there's nothing there.
So it's just completely abandoned, no
There's
chance
no
of,
easement there.
okay.
That's right. That's in the middle of the playground.
I get it. I didn't know
Yeah.
if there was still a lawful easement there was my question. I
And
get
you
it.
can look right here where the X is. That's all Richmond County Schools land. Now, it's across the road, and it would not be advisable, in my opinion, to build a school building there because you have media and you have a gymnasium already built on the other side of the road. It's going to be a matter of thinking about where you want to put it. And I'm not an architect. I'm not an engineer. So if you're thinking that I'll be able to tell you where to put it, I can't do it. But there are people who can do this kind of stuff.
June, how many acres is where the mile track is compared to where you're talking about the place where it doesn't have the easement to it.
This one block is 3.32 acres, but again, that is, Scotty, help me out with that part.
I can line the acreage out on it while you guys are talking. It won't take just a second. Or basically the entire highlighted area that we were talking
Yeah,
about? Okay.
yeah, I'm thinking it's gonna be about 5 acres.
But the architect did say that even though we have a detached media center and
Yes.
detached gym,
Yes.
a school could be built in
Yes,
that area,
absolutely.
attaching those two items back together again.
What I was thinking, when I was looking at it, because I wasn't thinking, and again, I don't think the way they think, that it probably need to be on playground, where I
Right.
drove the big circle, okay? But what she's saying is, this area right here, where I just did that X,
Mhm.
that is an older building, was built, I think, in 1969. That building could come down, and then, how do I clear this? Yeah, I did that too, and it didn't work. Okay, that's fine. Just put me back up. Uh-oh. Leave this stuff. All right, so she's talking about wanting to put it somewhere in the neighborhood. Don't you love technology?
If you come to the back of the parking lot, and this isn't counting if you come to the back of that parking lot, it comes out to about 2.3, 2.5 acres, just depending. But there's some spots you could come up, I just did a straight line.
But again, you have that easement there, and then you have the land go all the way over to the fence line behind these houses where it says 1004, 1010, 1012. So you have a little bit more area there to build if you choose to. But what I was gonna tell you was, she is thinking that the building could be put somewhere around in here. And then it will connect up to the gym that's just been built and the media center. Where I was thinking it would probably be better to put it back here. That makes more sense if you can put the building in there. Now, what the footprint would look like to make it happen, I don't know. If it's a 2-story building, if it's a 3-story building, I don't know. So the building's 74 years old.
Junior, quick question, like,
Yes,
is that, have there been any thought about, I mean, we talked about potential location, but as far as parking, so I mean, I know that, you know, parking and driving accessibility, parents coming in and out of school, have we looked at what that would look like too, even with, you know, what you just talked about? I mean, cause that's something, I mean, that's a tight area.
You're absolutely right.
And
It's
so
hard.
definitely wanna make sure that we don't put parents and kids in a bad situation with parking.
I was principal there 3 years. And the egress, the entrance, the exit was horrible. Doesn't matter any way you do it. You have some getting picked up on the back side of the building, some getting picked up on the front side of the building. It is still, so it takes a good staff, which we have a great staff over there, and to make it work, and it will. To answer that question, I would have to know where the buildings go. And when I knew that, then I could tell, okay, we can change the patterns of traffic. It's not just Fairview Heights. You got Hamlet right down the road. And so Hamlet snarls it as well. So I'd like to answer that question, but until I know where the building's going, I really can't answer. I will tell you, if you chose to build the building there, then the whole other part of the building would come down later on. And that'd be an extra road to put in. You could zigzag it, get cars in and out of there, and, you know, that might be your playground at that point. So you can incorporate the media center, the gymnasium into the new plan. New playgrounds, parking lots, and pickup lanes could be constructed in these areas, but we'd have to know where they're going. So, to flip the page, if a decision was made to build a new elementary classroom building at Fairview Heights, how will it be funded? There's only one way you can fund a building that big. and that's an East-based public school capital fund. The current building has 28 classrooms. You probably want to put 30 in there, just to make sure you got room. Cost of the project, 35 to 42 million, maybe more than that. But the good thing is you got a gym already. The good thing is you've got a media center already. And the other thing is, Stephen and everybody, when we started trying to build this gymnasium, set it up so if you've been in the gym and you look to the back wall, that wall was designed to be taken out to build a gymatorium, just like you have at some of the other school buildings. West Rockingham's got one, East Rockingham's got one.
Mhm.
So that building can be expanded. It was gonna cost us about $400,000 to add it, and we just didn't have the money. And so that part got cut, but we did ask them to please leave it to where we could expand it if we got the money needed to do it. So you wouldn't have to build an auditorium. This one came down, and I will tell you, Fairview's auditorium is just not a good place. It's just not. I mean, there are some that are in a pretty good spot. That's not one of them. Building's just old, and it's just so. That way, you would spend $400,000, $500,000 on the gymatorium.
So that 35 to 42 million, that doesn't take into account any potential demo, it's just construction, right?
When I talked to Steve, how much was the demo? Let's say 350 to 500,000.
Okay.
Take it now. What they'll do is they'll a lot of times they'll get a proper parcel of land, and then they'll buy it, and they'll just take it.
Backfill.
And done. It's a lot of people do. If you don't build a new auditorium, you do the gymatorium, it'll save a lot of money, about $8-10 million, maybe more than that. Auditoriums are scandalously expensive. The capital fund, again, if we did 40 million, it'd be a $2 million add-on that we would have to pay. The question for the board would be, why would you build a Fairview and not an LJ Bell school? And conversely, I'm gonna ask that question in a minute, why would you do a Fairview and not an LJ Bell, or why would you do an LJ Bell and not a Fairview? We can't do it all. We do know that Monroe Avenue is gonna land well. Feel good about that. When they get there, was a little bit of contention last time, but we're gonna get it. If we get another school building in elementary possibly built, then that just leaves one more that we really have to do in the next 10 years, I would say. But, again, right now, a Fairview is a little over, and that's about the only justification I could say. Just a little bit over. Might not be in quite as good a condition outwardly looking at Bell. Now, Bell's got some problems, and Steve's gonna be talking to those problems in just a few minutes. And again, you guys will have an opportunity to think about it. Where's your priority? The low, is it medium, is it high? This building serves 550 kids. LJ Bell School was the next one. It was built in 1952, 2 years after Fairview Heights, and 1 year before Monroe Avenue. The attached kindergarten pod was added in '76. A new classroom building was started in 2011, actually finished in 2013. Chiller for the main building is less than 8 years old. However, the chiller pipes are a problem. Steve?
Yeah, so we've been plagued with some condensation problems on the board pipes that are above the ceiling in the halls. When the building was originally built, it had steam heat. It didn't have air conditioning. So at some point in time, a boiler, fuel oil boiler was added in the chiller. So they ran the piping down the hall below the ceiling, the original ceiling. Well, then you could see the pipe, so they didn't want to see the pipe anymore, so they put a suspended ceiling. So what it created was a void there, or a cavity, where the water, the boiler and chiller pipes are. Well, in the cooling season, that water is about 52 degrees going through that pipe. Well, if you've got the conditioned space in the bottom that you're trying to keep 68 degrees and it's 98 degrees outside, you're trapping this air in there that's somewhere between 68 and 98. You've got 52-degree water going through there, so it makes it condensate. It makes the pipe pipe's wet, the insulation's wet, and it drips on the ceiling tile, and it causes some issues. So, over the years, that pipe, this black iron pipe, has deteriorated. And we have some pictures of it. We've had a few places that we've had to shut the system down, drain all the water, make a repair, bring the system back up. But it's almost at the point that, you know, if we have a catastrophic failure, you know, we could be out of school for several days, till we get it fixed. I mean, we're talking 3, 4, and 5-inch, black iron pipe, thick pipe, it's all welded pipe. And we have that similar, pipe in several locations in our district. It just seems that particular location has been plagued with low problems.
It's Fairview.
You all saw the pictures that I put in the book. Those were certainly, we were reviewed today. So I have some people that came by to try to give us an idea about what it's gonna cost. Cindy, can you share with the board the most accurate estimation that you can think of? What was the building you talked about that somebody did recently?
We had a contractor come 2 weeks ago and look at it, and they did a similar building over a summer about 2 years ago, with just piping alone, which you have to remove all the ceilings down the hall to be able to access the pipe and do the repairs, or remove the pipe, remove the insulation, remove the pipe, reinstall the pipe, install insulation, install the ceiling. That particular project was about the same size school with $8,000 just for the piping and the ceiling. And we do have fan coil units in that school. There's 85 fan coil units. They're air conditioning system you see hanging in the classrooms, below the ceiling, just big boxes. So there's 85 total in that school. We had 4 of those replaced at Rockingham Middle in the kitchen 2 years ago. And it was $48,000 for those 4. So if you take 85,000 and do the math, you're probably, yeah, you're $800,000 to replace all the fan coil units. The problem with those units are they're old and rusted, and they're obsolete. We can't buy parts anymore, so we're having to rob parts off of one and shutting one down, and so we're slowly losing units in that area. So that's another problem. So if you combine the piping and replacing all the fan coil units, I mean, you're, you know, 800,000 to 1.6, somewhere in that range.
Is this the same technology or the same engineering that's at Fairview Heights? Is it?
It is very similar, in a very similar cavity, but for whatever reason, knock on wood, we just have not had that same issue. Some of the piping at Fairview Fairview and LJ Bell have been replaced, just as it broke or something, we've done some repair, but, and, you know, if we were to replace LJ Bell because of the piping issue, I'm not saying that next month we may not have a problem at another school.
You might have the same problem at Fairview Heights.
But you know you have this problem.
Right.
This has been an ongoing problem at least 3 years that I'm aware of at LJ.
The other thing is, and you keep in mind, you got 85 fan coil units at, you know, $80,000, whatever it may be. You don't have to replace them all again. There's still a lot of them that's working. So you can take that and the ones that are broken, and then rob parts off of them to keep the other ones going. Now, if you're gonna replace all those pipes, you would think that you're investing in that. So if we went into LJ Bell and we said, okay, we're gonna just fix the pipes, we'll fix the fan coil units, spend $1 million, $2 million on it, the building's gonna be there for a while to make that money worth it. See what I'm saying? So that will be a big part of thinking about it. And keep this in mind, that money comes out of his budget, it comes out of the local budget, because they're not gonna give you from the state $2 million to do something. Again, we will start getting some money from the renovation, about $500,000 a year.
Could ask for county
And the
commissioners.
other money, about $700,000, is gonna come from somewhere. So, just presenting it the way it's presented to me, Steve and I talked about it, didn't know this stuff, last time I spoke to you, didn't know it, and so, LJ Bell is a question continues.
Julian, that's why you've had certain teachers at that school that've been sick on a regular basis.
I can't speak to that.
Isn't that the case, I think?
I can't speak to
I
that.
know, I've talked to several teachers, trying to think I think it's downstairs. It's downstairs. That they've been sick, almost like a continuous several months in a row. And I know that maintenance has gone over and cleaned stuff in those particular rooms, but, you know, they were sick.
Yeah, we've done some indoor air quality testing. We've done some mold testing on some black substance that, you know, we weren't, you can't look at it and tell what it is, you have to test it. And so far, to my knowledge, there is no mold, there's no health issues, I mean, that we're aware of. There is something we haven't been able to test at this time.
So 72-year-old building footprint could be on the existing playground if, let's think, use that, so this is a potential place for a building at LJ Bell School where the existing building is. There is a potential to put the building here. I don't know, again, what configuration that would be. There's also room possibly down here. I asked the architect we're talking to today, and I said, you know, that's strange to look at that spot and this spot. It just doesn't look like a good place, and their response was, there's a reason why that building is right there. Because it was put in the best place. So, I mean, there are very little options. So if you were to go back and put the building in that same place, not on one of these other places, kids from LJ Bell would either we'd have to get learning cottages, trailers, whatever, like we did at Rockham Middle School.
There's water problems on that playground in a lot of places. There's a water problem.
There is water problems, and we were told today that there's possibly a structure that was built and it's under it. So there's some walls there from something. So that is a little bit of it's concerning. We don't know what you're going to come up with. So you would certainly have to move the kids, or you'd have to put trailers in. There's some options that can be done, but we'll look into those as they come up. Let's move on out of here. New gym and K-Pod will be incorporated in design if the building is done. The building constructed on the current upper parking lot, layout is going to be dramatically different. LJ Bill will be a much more difficult place to build if we use anything other than the existing area. It'll be difficult. Some point's going to happen. If a decision is made to put the new elementary school at LJ Bell School, again, we use a need-based public school capital fund. It houses about the exact same amount of kids that Fairview Heights does. It has about the same amount of classrooms. Again, we would take $40 million. We still have to pay two. Why would we choose LJ Bell over Fairview Heights? Well, we just gave you a couple of good reasons. If that's the case. Now, the building looks pretty good. But you just gotta know what you're going to invest for $2 million. Or do something different, you're welcome to do it. Just know, you might think about your priorities. Low, medium, and high. All right, so Rockingham Middle School is also.
Can I ask a question just about that? You know, we talked about, you know, where would you put a school? What would you have to do? Stephen, in your expert opinion, because we're having dialogue right now. Has it ever been done where you just gut the inside of the building? Because the building itself is still probably a fantastic building. It's brick, right? Could you just gut the whole thing inside?
Well, I think the problem, architect and I discussed that today. For instance, LJ Bell's kitchen. If we were to go in there and do a remodel on the kitchen, let's just say we tore all the counter cabinets out, put all new appliances in, tables, whatever. Another problem you have is the cast iron drain lines that are under the slab. You know, they corrode from the inside. There's never a way to clean those or get to those. So even if you gutted the whole inside of the building, you still got old pipes in the walls.
Yeah.
The insulation factor is not there that it would be on a new building. So I'm not saying it couldn't be done, but I think your end product would be better if you had a new structure.
So one of the things that we had considered doing, and just to throw this out, is keep K-Pod. You've got a gymnasium already. That's good. You've got some of your buildings already. That's at least 6 classrooms plus a gym. That should be 7 classrooms there. and keep the auditorium. Tear down the building around it, keep the auditorium. We want to keep them if we can. Most schools don't have auditoriums anymore. It costs too much to build, $10, $12, $15 million to build them. And so the architect said it was very possible to do that. Very possible. So that would certainly be an option as well. If you chose to do
Question,
so.
how old is the gym at, LJ Bell?
2013 is when it was dedicated. So, any more questions about LJBL? And again, I mean, it certainly doesn't have to be done. You can see that there are some concerns. Mr. Satterfield asked a very good question. I was at Rockingham Middle School in 2000 when you could literally take your foot and put it in a hallway and push down and it would go down about that far. The termites just eat the building up. We had to get it replaced. And we were told, and again, I can't tell you the veracity of this statement, but I'm gonna tell you what I was told while I was there. It would cost $16 million to gut the interior and put it back like it was and keep the building. And we built the other building for like 7.2. Again, I don't do architecture and I don't do construction, but I will tell you that's what we're doing.
You're not gonna put your foot through that terrazzo floor.
Rockingham Middle School is
Sure,
also
you're
a
not.
consideration. Their gymnasium is built 1940, this is 84 years old. There are parts of that building structure over there that we don't use anymore. Upstairs is still being used, on either side, but 84 years is a long time to have a building there. Again, do you wanna spend the money that it would take, again, $10, $12 million? We're doing one at the high school, and that building's gonna end up being $12 million probably before we're done. You wanna spend it that way, or do you wanna build a school? Think about the price. Think about what you want as far as the questions you have, to do it. District match or something like that, probably be $300,000, $600,000, or $12 million building. West Rockingham was another one we had discussed. Some discussions were had, and I was all about it at one point, the possibility of doing a pre-K school there, having those kids be dispersed into LJ Bell, possibly Washington Street, possibly East Rockingham. I will tell you, after having looked into it, there's only a couple of classrooms at East Rockingham, and that's where the majority of them meet. West Rockingham, East Rockingham, the lines are not too terribly far apart. LJ Bell is probably 3 miles, maybe 4 miles from West Rockingham, so that would certainly be an option, to take some of those kids and put them over there. However, there are 17 classrooms at West Rockingham now. If we take 2 of them at West Rockingham, it means 15 more are gonna have to be built at Bell, and there's no way we'd have enough money to do it. That would be 30 classrooms plus 15. Maybe you could do it with 10. You may be able to redistrict and put some of the kids at Washington Street School. But here's the kicker to it. If we talk about putting our pre-K kids in, it's one of the things we talk about. Right now there are 11 pre-K classrooms in our district. 2 of those are at Mill Spring School. And because they're at Mill Spring School, it has a long way for kids to go. And we talked about that when we talked about building. We would only send 9 classrooms of kids over there. Potentially, you could petition the state to get some more. I talked to Wendy about it, but it'd be very difficult probably to get any more. If you don't have 9 classrooms over there, what's the point of doing it? You're not gaining anything. So again, looking at priorities of it, I don't see any way of gaining anything from that. But you may. The last one is a potential ROTC building. We talked about this for a long time. What did you see, and you saw in your book that I gave you, that was a school, ROTC building built somewhere down the coast. I can't remember, it was in Brunswick County maybe. It'd be wonderful for kids to have. It'd be wonderful for us to have more room at the high school for the 9th grade kids who are coming in. It'd be great to house, all their events. It'd be great to have a place for them to go and to march and stuff on the interior. It'd be great for a place to have their shooting matches. And they do pellet guns and they do bows and arrows and all that stuff. Lots of positives to it. I was told by Major Kelly that he had contacted the military and there was possibility of getting simulators kids to have, to work with, on the private tank or whatever else. They got simulators, and they would give you some of this stuff if you had a nice building. Again, that's kind of a luxury. We did have a rough out of it. I had my construction company nearby. Yeah, 75 by 120. The project somewhere around 575,000. When you trick it out with computers and names and all that other stuff, I don't know more than that. Probably about 650 along in there. But that is certainly something that's within the realm of possibility, especially when we start getting the money that Don was talking about earlier, or the renovation money, if we can use it. We would have to get permission to use that way. That would be good for space. You can see in there, I don't have to put a rule in to make sure it'd be able to do it. But we'd have to let it build up a year or two in order to do it. That's what I have for you tonight. Be glad to answer any questions that you have. I'll have 2 pages blank at the back. Potential other projects, potential next steps. It's a lot to take in for me.
So the needs-based grant, it has to be for one specific project. You couldn't do an elementary school and then tack on potentially the JROTC, because it's.
Has to be on the same campus, can I say it?
You absolutely can say it.
So, I like the way you think. So I was thinking about it today, okay? For middle school, you can get $52 million, okay? Rockingham Middle School and LJ Bell School touch each other. It's not the same campus, but we're gonna try to get a ruling to find out. So if we could get the $52 million for the middle school, you build the gym and you build the other school. So the lady we talked to today is gonna look into it for us. I don't think it's gonna fly, but we certainly can try. You can do those kind of things, multiple projects on the same campus.
Okay.
With the money, but you can't do it on 2 different. But all the lines touch each other, so potentially.
But it's probably based on school number, and they're different school numbers.
That's what I would guess.
That's, yeah, you're not wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody down the coast was doing something similar, but it didn't have 2 school numbers.
Because some schools, they have two schools on one campus, and they have all the same number.
Is that the case in Scotland County? Is it 1 number or is it 2?
It's 2.
It's 2. 2 numbers on the same campus. What other questions? Be glad to answer.
Yes, my understanding is projects that, in which you take offline old buildings and end up with one newer building, you know, so you're increasing efficiencies there, really like.
You can look at the form, this one right here, Reeva's absolutely dead on. And look through here, and I think that I left it in this, I didn't want to give you 50 pages of it. I did not put that in there, but there is the need-based public school capital fund. It's a tier designation, you get points for that. Ability to generate tax revenue, which our revenue very low, you can see that on the sheet that I gave you. Ratio of debt to tax revenue, critical deficiency, something we really got to have. Facility construction, new or complete renovation, facility replacement, consolidate 1 or 2 schools. Applicant says, have you had the grant in the last 3 years? Richmond County Schools has never got this money. So I think that puts us in a pretty decent spot to get some
And
money.
never applied for it either.
No, we applied twice.
We have applied twice.
We have applied twice. Dr. Maples applied twice for an auditorium at the high school. I think we went through while we talked to him. The high school
That's not
supposedly
gonna replace an old building.
had plans for an auditorium. Now, it was gonna be put in a different place. It was gonna be $9-10 million. It did not get it in time. However, we've talked to some people that know how to write these grants, and I feel really good about this. You don't know. But there was, I think, 124 applications last year, and 7 got funded. Now, I was worried, very worried, about competing with the mountain counties who got hit by the hurricane. Certainly, they should have priority over us or anybody else. But there is a fund of money that the state is using to fix those. So I don't think it's gonna affect this money. Well, again, I'm not trying to be insensitive, but certainly we wanna get them taken care of first, but.
Have they said that?
I looked on the website today, and there was a section on the needs-based planning, on the planning, the DPI planning site, And it was, if you had requested money for it, they had quite a bit of money to fix the buildings.
Yeah, so if you look at the criteria that sort of give you priority, it's new or complete renovation. So an auditorium is kind of a small project, they're like a big, consolidating 2 or more schools into one. And are you addressing critical deficiencies in serving your students? And so that's again where a core building is more prioritized
Yep.
than something like an auditorium or RTC.
You won't get it.
Now, I talked to a guy not long ago, John Barath, and he used to be over at Moore County, and he says that you should apply for something big, and then maybe put a small structure in there with it, because they always have a little extra money, and sometimes you get some of that money. I personally wouldn't want to take a chance at that. Maybe the project we talked about just a moment ago, maybe something like that, but I would rather try to get the big money.
I think the way you get this grant is like what you said, is that you're replacing an old school, or you're combining schools and building one school.
Yes, agreed.
I think if we're gonna try to hit a home run with this, I think that's the way you go. I don't think you try something small. I think you go something big and replacing something. And just,
You wanna use it in a way that's gonna impact the most students.
right. So, and if you guys go back and think about why are we here now doing this, is because we asked the superintendent to do a facility study, and we found out through this guy that nobody else knew, said that we had some old buildings that need to be replaced, and that our schools are under capacity. So, because we're losing students.
According to what he's saying right now, this is in the report that Jim Watson sent. This represents a total of 169,621 square feet of floor space that is between 71 and 74 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not saying we have to do anything right now. What I'm saying is, if you have 3 buildings go bad at one time, what do you go? Not gonna say that they're gonna do that. They've lasted 75 years, they may last another 20.
So is this feasible? We're just throwing things out here, starting conversation. Whether it's LJ Bell or Fairview Heights, we know we need a new elementary school. We know that. We also know that Ellery Middle School is extremely old, has 189 students, and for $16 million, $15 million, we could probably add on to Mineral Springs and make that a K-8 school. So this is my question. Let's say we apply for a needs-based grant, get that for the elementary school, okay, which is let's just say $40 million, just numbers. Is there any way our county commissioners, we could meet with our county commissioners and discuss how we could possibly build onto Mineral Springs? Because again, we're not going to get 2 grants. We're probably not going to get 2 grants. So how do we get our county commissioners to figure out how we can do this? Because don't forget, we're actually building a new school for $15 million and replacing it a 70-year-old building. So is that possible, where we get the needs-based grant and then we get our county commissioners to help us with that $15 million? Does that make sense to y'all? Because we can, I'm sure we'll make an agreement tonight of what, if it's LJ Bell or Fairview Heights, but we could make an agreement tonight that we need to give this man permission to do a needs-based grant, and maybe start a conversation with somebody about doing those things.
So what's actually required to apply for the needs-based grant? Do we have to have engineered drawings? Do we have to have architectural plans?
That's a little bit of a contention. So when I talked to the last presentation I went to 3 or 4 weeks ago, they said you have to have a full set of plans. The architect we spoke to today said absolutely not. You don't have to do that. And she's gotten 3 or 4 done in the last decade, or last 5, 6 years without it. Now she has some plans, something there, basic. But you got to keep in mind, and I talked to Eva, and this is, we're going to get in the weeds here, so Eva, I'm going to need you to speak to that, okay? So this sheet right here tells you kind of the process that you would use if you chose to do that. So my concern was, okay, so say we want to build a building, just like we did when we were talking about the high school. Okay, you go get an architect, or you go get an architect that you may not use to give you the basic outline of what the building looks like, so you can kind of get it bid on it. Or you follow what Eva has said here. Can you walk them through this, Eva?
Sure, so, as he said, additionally, if you had engineered drawings, that's great, they love to see it, but everyone can't invest in that knowing if they're gonna be able to build. So, you know, what some districts do is hire an architect to essentially do a concept, and, you know, go far enough down the road to verify that this can be built in this place, and here's, you know, sort of in general what it would cost and what it would look like. And they will essentially do your grant application for you. And then if you get the grant, you can put it out to bid for like final architectural drawings, or you can hire them to do it. And then, yeah, so it isn't, you will have to invest something. You will need to hire someone to at least get your application in good shape and have a project that it may not be like shovel ready, but it's
Doable.
we know what it is, we know what it's gonna look like, we know where it's gonna go, we know who owns the land, because one of the things they say is you can't spend this money to buy land, like you need to own the land. And then you can, if awarded the grant, get an architect to finish you out and put it out to bid for construction. There are construction firms who would like to pitch you on like, hire us now, we'll do it. If you get the grant, you've already hired us for the rest of it, but, right, we like them to have to work for it a little harder than that. So, but yeah, so, and what we have had, I know we had one district do was, have an agreement with the architect that essentially there's a flat fee for this work, but if we get the grant, and you'll keep helping us resubmit it, they said, for 3 cycles. And if we get the grant, like, that sort of goes toward the final drawings, but if we don't get the grant, then we'll just pay your flat fee, so.
Do you know what that looks like, dollars and cents, just on the prep side, just an estimate?
Please don't quote me on this. I have something like 70 in my head for what that cost, but that may have been, I don't have a good sense of what it would cost for your project. I don't know if you gentlemen do, to get up through the grant application. But we can get some examples from other districts. So Edgecombe County got the grant recently, and they did it for a middle school, so they hired an architect to do the drawings, were awarded the grant, and then they put it out, you know, to bid for the final drawings. I think they ended up hiring someone else to see it through.
So we can contact somebody.
Well, this doesn't have anything to do with what it does. Okay, so we just make a decision tonight.
You don't have to make.
I know, but I'm just saying, if we do, or when we make our decision, and the architect takes this and works with it, and he comes back and says, it's not gonna work. You can't build a school here, you can't build a school here, so our plan or our thoughts are negative. and
Well, I
we
think you've
have to
gone
start.
far enough to where you know, to some extent, where things can go, right?
We know we can put them on those campuses. How we do it is the question. But there are a lot of different permutations that can be done to make it happen. I can tell you, according to what I was told today, can happen.
And the
I don't see it at LJBL, that's why I'm asking, I really don't, cause I've worked there long, there's problems where the, K-Pod is, they've had to build the land up, I mean, I know you said it goes up to the high school, that's not that, I mean, to the middle school, it's not that far. And then in the back, they put pipes in, I don't know how many times under that ground. Am I wrong? I mean, I've been out a while, so I don't know, but I'm just, and I don't know about that land at Fairview Heights, I don't know a thing about it.
What I'm gonna tell you is, if it was done first time, it can be done again. I mean, you may have to put it right where that building is right now. You may have to put trailers in the playground or up on the parking lot. You may have to move those kids to another building till that building is built. So there is the possibility, and I'm just gonna throw this out as an idea. This is gonna be a little contentious, but it would certainly work. If you decided to go with LJB. So that was the plan. Okay, I wanna build LJB. We're fixing to send all the kids from ninth grade academy to Richmond, right? It's gonna take a year to get it ready for an elementary. If we start applying for this grant, we would apply in July. It's typically awarded September, October, whenever the budget gets passed. Determine what we're gonna do with the money. From that point, right there, we got the money. There's 10 months for the design phase. Now folks, I don't know if you know this or not, and he reminded me today, we did it in 3 months for the 3 structures that we did. 3 months, the design phase. It takes about 10 to do a good job. Okay? So, if that was the case, you would have 1 year, get the building ready, get the plans for it. Theoretically, just throw this out, they call it a swing. You take kids from Bell, put them in ninth grade academy, and you built Bell, and you send them back. That's possible, people do it. Now, it's gonna be 15, this is the best estimates I got today. From the time they start building, which is probably gonna be 10 months after, somewhere around July of 26, 16 months. She said 15 to 16 months. Now, if you try to go with Fairview Heights, and this is gonna sound completely insane, but if you decide to go with Fairview Heights, you can take Monroe Avenue's kids, put them in ninth grade, with Fairview's over to Monroe, it'd still be within reasonable, line. And then you tear down Fairview Heights, build a building there. Building a building unobstructed kept coming up today. Not having to worry about hurting a child, running over one with a tractor or whatever. It just frees things up, makes things a whole lot easier.
It also allows you to rebuild the building right where it's at, just like Fairview Heights or LJ Bill. If you relocated those students to a different campus, you could tear those structures down and just rebuild it right where it's at, which is optimal. Like Dr. Carter said, it was built there originally because that was the best spot on the site. It fits best with the gym and the auditorium and everything. It would allow you probably to have a better chance at saving auditorium, whether it be Fairview or LJ Bill. You can change everything but the auditorium, remodel the auditorium, keep in the auditorium, and then build a new school right there. And you have free reign of construction, activities on the site. Would be, testing time, educating employees, it's just thought.
I can tell you, my heart was at Rockingham Middle School. Did a lot of years there. And when they had to tear that building down, it killed all of us. Because that was a very special thing to all of us. And anybody that was at Rockingham Junior High, they would tell you, it was hard for all to say that. They came back, that group was something that was special that could be used for them. And again, I can't tell you what to do. I'll just tell you that we just can't get in a position where we have to 2 or 3 schools to be done because we can't push it.
So there's no way we could build a Fairview Heights with those kids staying there.
You can.
You can.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't have any doubts that you can do it. I think where the placement of the building is going to be different. But I think you can do it. She was just really not set on the playground out there. She didn't like the distance from the media center. And if you'll notice, and I don't know if you guys have ever noticed this, the media center and the gymnasium that we built look very similar. We used the same colors, we tried to use the same bricks, all that stuff, so we could tie it all in when it got time to rebuild Fairview. I think it should be done, again, my best estimation would be where I drew that picture, that back part of the building, where you down, and you build it right there, you could do it. It's gonna be very tight, it's gonna be very difficult to do, but you could do it. The best thing is, I think Stephen was saying, would be get them off campus. Don't have to worry about hurting anybody. Everything is taken care of, you put it in the best spot. Architect has free reign to come up with the best plan in that case. And you've got another 75, 80 years, and we're done.
I can just add a couple of things real quickly. So you mentioned talking to the county. It is definitely time for us to get them involved, because even if just we're gonna apply for the grant we complete it, but it actually goes to the state on behalf of the county, not on behalf of the Board of Education. So that would need to happen. We were able, I know you all know that when I was in Camden, we got a $50 million grant from the Capital Needs Fund. We did not have a complete set of drawings. We had a conceptual, will it fit on this site kind of thing. And so what we did is exactly what Eva described, where we contracted with an architect to do that work for us and help get the grant written and all those things, and then put it out for bid. Now that board there did end up going with that architect to design the entire project out. But today in our discussions with the architect that was here, sort of as a favor to me, she was saying that those services typically would range in the $30,000 to $40,000 range.
That makes sense.
So, and she said, so that you get all that done, she would help get the grant written, get it submitted, and then we put it out for bids and go from there. But so, regardless, if we're going to do something at Fairview Heights or at LJ Bell, I think a next best step would be for me to reach out to the county manager and set up a time when he and I and maybe the chairs and of both boards, or the vice chair, whatever we decide we want to ask for, and just have a conversation about it to let them know where we are. They're aware, of course, of our facility study, but and moving 9th grade and closing Monroe Avenue, they're aware of all that. But the next steps, of course, they would need to be clued in on, because they're going to need to be directly involved in those. And that could be the discussion about, is it even possible for us to do something out at Mineral Springs in the way of making that a K-8 school without tapping into the grant at the same time as we're doing the grant for either LJ Bell or Fairview Heights.
What's the timeline of the grant? When does that have to be submitted?
Yep. So we have about 6 months.
So now's the time to start working on
And
it.
then they take how long before you get a response?
Usually September, I think. Well, once the budget passes.
It's gonna be September or October, usually budget comes back.
Yeah. The passing of the state budget is when they will announce it. But to make sure it remains in there in as a budget item.
I mean, it can be taken out.
That's right.
They spent $300 and something million, $386 million last year.
But then when the budget comes back and say we're awarded it, we've got 10 months or a year to
design it. But
design
once
it and all
once
that.
you get the money, I do know this. Once you are awarded the money, you can take the time needed to get. I just found out today that the project that I started working on in my 4th year as superintendent in Camden has just been put out for bid for construction. Now that was, it probably could have been done more quickly than that, but they just did that. So.
If we do this thing, you can't get back in the queue for 3 years if you're ready to get the money. So if you get the money, you have to wait 3 years and then you can apply again. So it doesn't do us any good to sit here and wait. That's what I look at it.
Yeah. So the tough decision for you guys is if you want us to build a school and go for the grant, which school are we going for?
Yeah, I'm just, again, throwing things out there and just using what I hear. I would think, and this is just to start conversation for y'all to get mad at me. I know we have the problems with LJ Bell, but who's to say those same problems ain't gonna happen at Fairview Heights when we start building new LJ Bell? I think the thing that we need to look at is replacing Fairview Heights first, putting it on that campus there, keeping the students there, and that's where our grant money goes. I'm a lot like Bobby Sue. I spent a lot of time on that playground out there. There's a lot of water problems out there, and maybe we need to get an engineer out there to look at that as well. But if you ask me what my opinion was, is that I would like to see us build a new Fairview Heights and do the K-8 at Elwood Middle School, at Mineral Springs. That would be what I would suggest. I think it would be easier, and sometimes easier is not the best, but it'd be easier to do Fairview Heights and LJ Bell.
Which schools in the watershed?
Yes.
It's,
Which schools in the watershed?
That's great, yeah.
That would determine.
What are you saying yes to?
yeah,
They're both in terrible shape.
And after
they're
looking
both
at-
in terrible
after
shape.
looking at the pipes at Fairview Heights, I'm heavily leaning towards Fairview Heights just because of the piping and, I mean, if you look at those pictures,
That's LJ Bell.
that was LJ Bell.
Mhm.
And again, the problems may be at the same thing at Fairview, but what we're saying is, you can walk down the hallway at LJ Bell, and you know, the little metal strips, about this wide, student housing, you can see them rust, all the way down where the Shawnee station constantly dripping, especially in the.
I bet we
part of
change
the year
those.
where you're air conditioned.
Whatever
We don't see
tiles,
that.
every month.
And seeing that, for
It's
me,
been
that's
like that
kind of
for
where
a minute.
I'm processing all this. It sounds like LJ Bell is in the most dire need as far as major issues that's going on between the piping and then the heating or cooling system that's in the classrooms. The only problem, I just unclear about the land part, and I mentioned, somebody had mentioned something about on the playground it being full of water. I mean, it's just a lot of,
It's not good.
it's just, yeah, so it just, that
It-
just,
She said today, she said, if you're gonna do it here, you really need to put it, that's what I got from our conversation. You need to put it where it's at.
Where the current building sits right
So
now,
that would
yeah.
mean you have to put trailers over there, or you have to move kids, and that's what we talked about earlier about where you put it.
So it sounds like Fairview Heights and LJ Bell are both of equal need, but the thing is Fairview Heights does sound like the path of least resistance, at least right now, which would give us more time to make a plan for LJ Bell, because both of them need to be done today.
What I want, and again, y'all choose, I don't choose, I'm not gonna throw this out to you, so you know. The $2 million that we got, $1,500,000, $1,400,000, I don't know what it will cost. To do those pipes at LJ Bell, it's coming out of our budget. There ain't money coming for that. So if we go that direction, and the building looks good, we walked today, it looks good. But if you wanna spend that amount of money to fix the pipes, and again, it's gonna take, you do it 3 months.
Yeah, it has been done, and we can certainly try that if that's the route we went. I mean, we went any other choice.
We would have to get it done quick. When kids got out of the building, we'd have to get teachers out of the building, they'd have to start right in. Cause you gotta take all that stuff out and then put it back. And then you gotta start talking about moving the coils. And
But
again-
Julian,
Yes, ma'am.
we just heard, now I'm just throwing this out, Dr. Farrell say, they've just started on the project at the county he came from. Been 5 years, well, it doesn't sounds like we need to do the pipes at LJ Bell way before 5 years.
And again, it's not gonna be.
We've
that
been working on,
way.
those pipes been doing that for more than 3 years. They've
Well, you
been-
said 3 years.
They've been doing that.
It's been a long time.
We've been changing those ceramic, those tiles for a long time.
No, when I said 10 months from the design phase, when you say go, she said it'll take me 10 months to have the building drawn up, the whole plan's ready, and then you start building. And then from that point, it's 15 to 16 months. So what we would have to have is LJ Bell survive like it is, and again, I'm just throwing this out, just like it is for 10 more months beyond this school year. So about July of 26.
Well, what did you just say, Dr. Farrell?
That they were
By the
putting
grant.
it out for bid, but there were some factors that delayed them. I think we could probably get it.
Superintendent change.
I think we could get it moving forward a lot more quickly. Now, it's still going to take 10 months to design and all that. So say a year, and then you've got a year of construction. But of course, the kids will be out of the building by then.
Again, when I told you about Fairview, again, I'm not an architect. That building, if you took it out, there's at least 8 classrooms and bathrooms there. So that would mean, if you keep the same amount of kids in that building, you may have a classroom or 2 open, you would have to have trailers. You'd have to.
So tonight, do we need a decision? Yes, we want to move forward with plans to build a new school and apply for this grant, or do we need to know the location?
So, I was just thinking about that. So what I think will happen, and Eva, please feel free to pump my brakes if you need to. I think what will happen is I would bring back a recommendation to the board at the February meeting for a company or a firm to work with us to help us write the grant. So I would say that a decision would need to be made by the February meeting.
When is your February meeting?
2 weeks.
2 weeks from today.
Okay.
February 11th.
Because you would have to do an RFQ, which is not as complicated as bidding, but you have to sort of allow multiple firms to send you their
Sure.
qualifications. So I'll do, a couple of weeks for that. But yes, I think your step is 2 steps, which could happen in the same meeting, is the board, or one could anyway, the board giving guidance to the superintendent on, please go forth and pursue an architect to, draw up plans for, and what the superintendent is asking for is for which project. And then you would come back essentially with a contract for approval, or with who you have selected.
Can we
Put you in March, isn't it?
Can we get
Good.
that done by the February meeting, or would we need to plan on bringing that to the March meeting?
February is tight,
Yeah.
unless the board is ready to make a decision tonight, which doesn't seem likely as far as which project they wanna pursue. But you could always add it to, I don't know, you could do a work session, I guess. If you felt like March was too late.
So can we do this? This is an idea. Certainly do your RFQ, request for qualifications, set a meeting for the end of February, work session. That way you can come back, and then whoever gets chosen to make those, let them go survey the sites and come back and tell y'all where they think the buildings need to go.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose you could do, yes, and I think you could, if you don't have to know which project you're gonna do to choose an architect.
That's what I'm saying. They
So
can go look
Okay.
you
at
could
that.
put out an RFQ tomorrow, I suppose, and just, that it would be for
Yeah, 'cause we want to move forward.
proof of concept
We can
drawings
pay
for
that.
a capital needs grant, right?
So do we need a motion to move forward with applying for the capital needs grant and starting to prepare for that, or is that just something that?
Certainly a motion wouldn't hurt, then you have clear marching orders.
To get an RFQ.
So what is your motion gonna be?
But
What would your
I guess
motion
an
be?
To get an RFQ for an architect to come in to look at both LJ Bell and Fairview Heights to give us their opinion on what facility is better to build at.
Yeah, so I guess it would be something like, I move to ask I move to direct the superintendent to seek, or to do an RFQ and bring back a recommendation for an architect to assist with a capital needs grant.
That's a lot to remember. I got some of
Uh,
it.
Did you get it?
When y'all were, Joe, when you and Corey and going to the county commissioners, why couldn't you do like the Fairview Heights, say if it was the one, and then also say, we need pipes at LJ Bell? Just to say, this is where we are, can you help us there?
Right, because we can't build two schools.
Because you
We have
can't
to
build two schools.
maintain one and build another one.
Yeah.
But the only thing, you're gonna be asking for three things from the county commissioners, cause you know,
Yeah,
you
you
just
are.
mentioned about
Mineral Springs.
Middle Springs, and
So 1.5 for the pipes, so 1.3, whatever, and then for the building, you'd be at 2 million, so that's 3 point something. And then if you go to Ellerby, then you gotta tack on everything else.
Y'all
Not a
good.
bad idea. I mean,
We're-
certainly try.
We're bold.
Y'all are bold, but I don't wanna say,
Well, I think it's good that we talk to them and say, these are the things that we need to do. Because just like somebody said, we have 3 buildings, if they all go kaput, the county commissioner is gonna have to do something then. You know, by law, they're gonna have to do something. We're trying to get a needs-based grant where they only have to pay $2 million to get a $42 million school.
And that's why I like the conversation of having a conversation with the county commissioners, to kind of explain to them what our situation is based on the facility study and where our thinking is as a board, and kind of share with them that, and just, you know, I think that's a good start. I mean, especially if you're gonna be asking, they got to put up match money either way, and if we're asking them to assist in other facilities that's not part of the needs grant.
Because you think
Right,
about
I
it's
think I-
15 million, it's 15 million for LRB,
Yeah.
2 million for the 1.5 million for the pipes, right? Which is what, 16.5, and then you're gonna ask for
Another,
Five,
at least 2 million for
right.
the elementary school.
for the
Match.
match. So you're looking at, you know, just say 19-20 million dollars.
And I also like seeking advice from the experts
Absolutely.
about where they think is the best possible solutions for the building, because I don't wanna choose that.
Absolutely.
I
Yeah,
wanna
right.
fix
That's
all of
right.
it.
One of the
You
things
know.
that she mentioned today, Beth, excuse me,
Sure.
was not trying to fit something in to get it there. Okay? And make sure you got the room to make it.
green
Right.
people.
So again, I don't know if it means that we need to move this away from that site to get it where you can build something that's really nice, no matter what structure you build it, but we have a building that's gonna be open to do that with. And then you got one school building, if you choose to go the route you're talking about, it's got its pipes, it's fixed, it's got a roof, it's got pretty much chillers, it's got whatever it needs. And you got one whole one that's completely redone, and then you got one that moves into another building, so you've got your problems pretty much solved.
All right, do we need to talk to county commissioners before we move any further? Or discuss any of this with them, or are we just gonna assume they're gonna say, yes, I like,
Y'all have
Lisa.
to authorize him to start the RFP
Right,
process.
and an RFQ doesn't cost you anything,
That's
you're
right.
just asking people to send you their proposal. And then you can make that decision.
So the RFQ would be a motion need to be made to for the superintendent to get RFQ through a architect to look at both Fairview Heights and LJ Bell to see what facility would be the best to build at, to give us some direction, like on where to build that elementary school. Then we can bring that information to the county commissioners.
And to help you with the grant.
Help us with the grant. So that's what we need.
So moved.
I can't make a motion.
You didn't? So I move to direct the superintendent to begin the process of requesting RFQs for potential site work at Fairview Heights and LJ Bell, and do whatever he may deem necessary to bring that back to us for review.
Good job.
I have a motion on the floor by Mr. Baldwin. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Mr. Tillman. Is there any conversation, discussion about that?
Were we also talking about, LB Middle over at Middle Springs,
Well, I think the RFQ would be for the grant,
to the grant, okay?
to start the grant, so that would be just a totally different
So
project.
y'all just get $20 million from the county commissioners, and then
That's
we
all,
got
yeah.
LB Middle, we're good.
Bobby Sue is done.
we got it, we got it, we got it. I'm telling you, y'all have lost.
So we have a second. Any more conversation? Any more conversation? All in favor of the proposal by Mr. Baldwin, say aye. All opposed? No? Great, that passes. So you know what you gotta do now, right?
I do.
Sorry.
If not, Jenny has it recorded.
Yeah, can we take like a 2-3 minute break so we can, potty real quick and come back?
You're chairman, you're supposed to.
Sorry. closing schools and building schools and moving schools and all that we're all on the same page. It's just, as everybody knows, superintendent's gonna do an RFQ, about trying to get a grant, which is the best thing to do, and that we are going to talk to the county commissioners in due time. And hopefully this will be done at the March board meeting, moving forward. Does that sound good? And the only thing that we're applying for right now is the elementary school. The other things that we've talked about, the LE Middle School, the JOTC building, the gymnasium at Rockingham Middle School, those are all just other ideas that we have discussed. Julian, is there anything else you want to add?
I did want to add one thing. I want to make sure that the community understands, we're doing planning here, okay? Nothing's been decided, one way or another. And even if we do make a decision, and even if the architect comes back and says, this is the building we want to build, we have to get money first. And again, last year there were 124 applications and 7 got accepted. So, it's nothing to get excited about yet, but.
They don't like Richmond County. We haven't had a Morehead Scholar in a bunch of years.
Thank you, Julian. Thank you, Steve, for information tonight. Dr. Farrell?
I just want to mention real quickly to you all, I gave you a copy of the 25-26 calendar, or calendar options, and this has been vetted through a number of people, but it has also been sent out to our staff for them to take a look at and vote on option 1 or 2. Usually we bring that to you in February for consideration, and then March for a final vote. But because of some training that's mandatory with Infinite Campus, we're going to need to bring this to you for a final vote in February. So I've given it to you tonight to look at, to study, to reach out to Dr. Smith or to me with any questions that you have, so that we can get those answered in preparation for our February board meeting in 2 weeks.
Have you had good participation with the survey so far?
Yeah, we currently have 303 responses.
Nice.
Yeah. And both of these options are within the or meet the calendar law. Sorry, I meant to mention that to you, Dr. Smith.
And I don't know about y'all, but during the 3 days of snow, my phone keeps on binging because people are calling and, why is it an optional work day for staff, and, why are we doing remote days? It's just, but doing a schedule is very, very difficult. And then you have non-exempt employees who can't make the time up. They've got to take the time, because really by law you're not allowed to say you can make it up some other time. You got to work during that pay cycle. There's a lot of things that go on in determining how people work and when they have to make it up and so forth, so on. So I know it's tough, and it's just hard that when it snows, it's difficult for everybody, and everybody's just got to be safe. And I think that's what our team did, was try to make everybody safe if they could.
Well, Dr. Farrell, if we vote for the, and the survey goes toward the calendar that ends before they get out for Christmas, is there gonna be enough time? It was controversial last time. We tried to, and they had to fit, because they said they'd already had vacation planned. Remember that? Do y'all remember that? We talked about it, and the people said we already had vacations planned for, Christmas, and so are we okay there? We giving them enough time?
Enough time to, like, enough.
Same time at Christmas.
Yeah,
All right.
they have the same amount of time off.
Okay, all right.
That's
Good.
right, same amount of time off.
Okay, thanks.
And we
Because
actually,
we got a lot to talk about
Yeah.
phone buzzing.
we did,
The issue was when we were going to try to come back early one time or something.
Maybe.
That was more of a
Maybe that's-
vacation.
Okay.
yeah. And we've spent quite a bit of time in conversation with high school teachers in particular about this calendar, because high school teachers high schools are those people are most impacted by the calendar. If you're a 5th grade teacher and the semester ends before Christmas or after Christmas, it might be a big deal, but not as big a deal as it is with EOCs. So we feel pretty confident that we have landed in a place that our high school folks would be fine with option 1 or 2.
Do we have a target as far as respondents, you know, the percentage of folks that we're hoping that respond? Do you have an idea? If that's making sense.
This is the first time I've done it, but I think if they have any about 600 total would be my guess.
Okay.
How many people I would expect.
All right.
Is there anything else for anybody?
Y'all had asked, or there was questions about people getting calls and some not getting calls. Are we supposed to be on the list to get calls, or are we not?
We are on the staff, we are on the staff chain
I get
for
a
those
call. You don't get
robocalls, aren't
No,
we?
and I commented that, you said you
Yeah,
didn't get a call,
I
I didn't get a call
and that was the
either,
problem.
But I knew through
Mhm.
conversation.
Did you get any calls at all? Any of y'all?
I didn't.
I did, but I got a student.
No.
Who did not get a call?
My phone
The
was
three of
out. I had phone trouble, all kinds of troubles with my lines last week.
So Cameron, Mr. Etheridge, Mr. Baldwin, Miss Schuler, and then,
Like I said, whenever you get calls, sometimes there'll be a difference between the staff call and the student call. So if you're getting a student call, you probably want to start.
Okay.
anything else for the board?
But I don't need calls for subbing anymore.
I need a
just
I
got
need a
off that
motion,
list.
Mr. Baldwin.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Make a motion by Mr. Baldwin, second by Ms. Schuler. Any conversation? All right. Have a nice night.